Queensland, north of Australia. The rivers move like veins of another world. Slow, ancient, and alive. And in those waters, some say, something huge once stirred. They called it Krys, a crocodile so vast it was said to measure 28 feet, longer than a bus, heavier than a car. But where the line between myth and memory blurs, truth becomes harder to hold. You're watching Backtales Stories. Tonight, we follow one of the most disputed animal encounters ever told. The 1957 story of the crocodile they called Krys, the Savannah King. Before we begin, let me ask you, do you believe legends can be built from something real? Type yes or no in the comments, and let's dive beneath the surface. Northern Queensland, a landscape of rust-colored soil, tidal rivers, and mangroves thick as cathedrals. Here lives the world's largest reptile, Crocodylus porosus, the saltwater crocodile. Adults often exceed 5 meters. A few exceptional males, maybe 6, but 28 feet. That's another category entirely. The saltwater crocodile is a perfect relic of evolution. Patient, cold-blooded, and utterly silent until the moment it strikes. Its kind has seen empires rise and fall. It doesn't need to change, and maybe that's why stories like this feel possible. Because out here, time moves differently. What seems impossible elsewhere might simply be waiting beneath the tide. The year was 1957. A couple, Krys and her husband Ron Pawlowski, hunted crocodiles for hides along the Norman River near the small town of Normanton. It was dangerous work. Crocodile hunting in post-war Australia was booming, hides fetching money in distant cities. For locals, it was survival. But on that July morning, survival met something far older. As the tide receded, they spotted a massive shape half submerged in the mud. At first, they thought it was driftwood. Then, it moved. The air hung heavy with insects. Krys raised her rifle, steadying her breath. Through the scope, she saw an eye the size of a teacup, staring straight back. For a long second, neither moved. Then, the creature shifted its tail, sending a wave across the bank. Krys fired. The shot cracked through the mangroves. The echo faded, and so did the ripples. The crocodile, immense and ancient, lay still. According to those present, the beast was longer than 2 men standing head to toe. Locals gathered. Someone measured, roughly 8.63 meters, 28 feet and 4 inches. If true, it was the largest crocodile ever recorded, but no official record was ever filed. Would you have believed your own eyes, or thought the mind was exaggerating? Comment what you think, truth or tall tale. Word spread quickly across Queensland. Photographs were taken. Rough, low quality, the kind you'd expect from the 1950s. In one, Krys stands beside the enormous body, rifle in hand. But there were problems. No clear frame of reference. No preserved skull or skin. No scientist ever verified the size. Still, the number stuck. 28 feet. It sounded too good or too terrible to forget. Even now, some claim the hide was displayed before disappearing. Others say it rotted away before proof could be taken, Either way, the legend had already grown legs, or scales. In the weeks that followed, the story spread across the Gulf country. Stockmen, fishermen, and station hands all claimed they'd seen something that big once. Each tale had the same rhythm: a river bend, a missing cow, a splash heard at night. Some said Krys the hunter had finally killed the beast that haunted the crossings for years. Others whispered that she'd only angered the river, that the spirit of the crocodile still lingered beneath the tide. Old-timers told the story by campfires for decades after. Some swore the creature's skull had been displayed briefly before disappearing. Others insisted that officials destroyed it to avoid panic. Truth or superstition, it didn't matter. The legend had already taken root, half in fact, half in fear, and maybe that's why it endured. Because the outback doesn't care for records, only for stories that stick. Experts have argued about it for decades. Could a crocodile truly reach such a length? The biology says no, at least not anymore. Even the heaviest verified specimen, Lolong, caught in the Philippines in 2011, reached only 20 feet 3 inches. 8 more feet would make Krys almost half again as large. But there's another angle. Some biologists believe prehistoric genes still echo faintly in isolated populations. A freak individual, an old survivor, might grow far beyond the norm. So, was Krys a relic of an older world? A survivor of the Pleistocene? Or simply a story stretched by distance, time, and heat? Tell me what you think. Is there room in science for something we can't yet prove? Most versions of the tale mention Krys Pawlowski only as the woman who shot the giant. But few remember the rest of her life. She wasn't a trophy hunter. Locals described her as quiet, practical, and respectful of the bush. In those days, crocodile hunting wasn't fame, it was survival. She and her husband spent months living out of a tent beside the river, collecting hides that paid barely enough to keep them going. That July day was supposed to be routine, one more hunt before moving on. When she spoke of it later, she reportedly said only this: "It was too big to believe. I didn't feel proud, just small." That single line tells more than the legend itself, because behind every monster story, there's always a human one, of awe, fear, and the uneasy line between respect and survival. Today, in the center of Normanton, stands a life-sized replica, Krys the Croc. Built according to the supposed 1957 measurements, it stretches across the street like a fossilized train. Tourists pose beneath its jaws, children climb its tail, and the locals tell newcomers the same line: "She was real. Don't let anyone tell you different." The statue isn't just a photo spot. It's a memory cast in concrete, a reminder of when humanity thought it ruled the wild and learned otherwise. Stories like this don't survive because they're verified. They survive because they warn. And if you ask me, this story has every ingredient that makes a legend believable: mystery, isolation, and just enough evidence to keep the doubt alive. Maybe Krys the hunter exaggerated. Maybe she didn't. But legends don't always survive because they're true. They survive because they could be true. Out here, nature doesn't need to lie. A 12-foot crocodile can erase the line between fear and reverence just as easily as a giant twice its size. And when people live that close to the wild, their stories tend to grow along with it. If you ask me, that's what makes Krys's tale endure. Not the number, not the gunshot, but the feeling it leaves behind. That uneasy wonder of knowing something vast might still be out there, silent and unseen. Because when the light fades and the river turns black, it doesn't take a 28-foot monster to make you feel small. Only the thought that something ancient is still watching, patient, older than time. And sometimes, imagining it is enough. So tell me, do you believe the story of Krys the Croc? A legend carved in rumor, born from a single gunshot in 1957. Whether it was myth or memory, one thing's certain: the rivers of northern Australia still belong to the crocodiles. And they'll be here long after we're gone. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.